Well, great as always to have you along, everybody. From the Experts is a virtual networking opportunity flow accelerator helping leaders across industries connect very quickly in a brief, moderated, interactive show format. It's like a TED Talk with interaction. If all goes well, your curiosity sparked new ideas, accelerate action, and you may have helped yourself or somebody else solve that problem, make a connection, reaching the opportunity faster. Folks, help me welcome our guest expert, Roshni Joshi. Roshni is Managing Director of Customer Engineering at Google Cloud. With diverse background spanning roles at Dell, Deloitte, EMC, AWS, she brings deep expertise, management, sales, and operations. She's committed to talent development at STEM education, and Roshni serves on the board of Lumity. In a nutshell, in her own words, she's a proud mother of two, Googler, Calcutta-born Chicagoan, aspiring pianist, and occasional geek. So welcome, Roshni. Grateful to
Thank
have you.
you.
Yes, grateful to
Thank
have
you,
you and
John.
your insights to explore this inclusive practices in digital product development. And what some of the challenges and positive impacts it might make on business and society. So over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Deeply appreciate the time that you're taking out. This particular the topic is one of that is deeply meaningful to me. We've all experienced points, moments in our life where we have felt the need to be included in a conversation, included in an experience, included in the view of the product that we are using, perhaps in our daily moments. So we are going to talk about building, product inclusion as a part of our product development process. And because if you hadn't guessed it already, I work for Google. My T-shirt, as my T-shirt says, as the art behind me says. So I'll focus today on how we do it at Google. What are some of the best practices that we use at Google? And then because inclusion is a key topic in all aspects of product development, but even more so, it becomes exaggerated in the context of AI, which is touching every surface of our lives. We'll delve a little bit into responsible and safe AI frameworks and how it ties back to inclusive product development. With that, hopefully everybody can see my first screen. All good. All right. So I wanted to start off with a little bit of a story. Now at Google, we like to tell our stories with data, but I'm going to share a story of the modern day dishwasher that sits in many of our homes. And if you Google who invented the dishwasher, the first name you will see is most likely this gentleman called Joel Houghton. And it is indeed true. Joel Houghton was the first individual to build a machine that used high water pressure to clean dishes and utensils. But guess what happens when you stuff a whole bunch of dishes and utensils and churn them with high water pressure? They break. And many people actually before and after Joel Houghton worked on this idea of an automated dishwasher, and they tried to improve on Joel's ideas, but their designs did not take off. The genesis of the modern dishwasher was actually came from this woman called Josephine Cochrane. Now, Josephine was a socialite and she was a homemaker, and she was frustrated with getting her beautiful china chipped by hand washing. And she realized that the solution to an automated dishwasher wasn't to put all of her china into this big tub with high water pressure. She actually came up with the concept of racks and wires that we see in our modern dishwasher. And what do those racks and wires do? They hold our dishes in place so that they don't knock against each other, they don't chip, and voila, the modern dishwasher was born. And Josephine's company was actually resold later on, and the design framework is what is used in our modern dishwasher. So why did I share the story at the very start and waste a few minutes of the very precious minutes that John has given me to talk? I share it because exceptional ideas can come from anywhere, and ideas come and good products come when you experience specific needs, and the needs of every user is different. In Josephine's case, she experienced a certain need because in her role as a homemaker, she saw it. And that led her to reimagine the whole dishwashing experience that became the modern dishwasher. And honestly, if you think about it, dishwasher is one of those appliances that freed up many hours of time consuming, mundane, repeatable tasks. And it allowed many of us to use that time and put it into other activities and really leave the confines of our homes to pursue education and careers. So dishwasher and other appliances, but the dishwasher for sure allowed women in this case, and I'll speak for myself, to leave the shackles of dishwashing and pursue careers. So with that, I wanted to dive into three very important words in the context of today's conversation. One is diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I'll define it based on my how I see it. So diversity is who is in the room, right? That's how I define it in my head. Equity is what conditions are you creating for certain people from underrepresented backgrounds so that they can stay in the room. And then inclusion then means, are you listening to everybody? Has everybody's ideas been heard? Whose ideas are not receiving enough weight because you don't have people of that background or that representation in the room? So diversity, who's in the room? Equity is, are we creating the right conditions for them to want to stay in that room? And inclusion is hearing of their ideas. And then, again, I said I was with Google. Today's session is about inclusive product building, taking those ideas of D, E, and I in mind. And I'll walk you through how at Google we approach this. So when we talk about inclusive design, we target user segments and we think about what could I be doing more for these users. And it could be gender based, and those are perhaps gender and race and geography are perhaps the most visible forms of diversity. But you could also be looking at, hey, what if I'm building a product that requires very high bandwidth and it will not work so well in areas where connectivity is not that good, such as in a developing world? Am I including that population? It could be, skin tone related. Maybe your product reflects in the marketing, you're reflecting a user community that has a certain look and a certain skin type. And are you excluding other designs? So we've been doing inclusive design in all forms for many years. And we believe that bringing an inclusive lens to the product design process needs to amplify underrepresented voices, and it needs to be reflected in all phases of product development. So the work that we do in inclusive product design, of course, falls within specific units within the product teams, but also we engage with our employee resource groups and bring them into the conversation. We engage with the external community and bring them into the conversation to evaluate and to understand and make sure that what we are building, we have accountability to the allies that we are bringing into the process. So this is kind of a very simplified version of our inclusive product design process. And this has been surfaced through our work with many teams across Google and Alphabet. And we've created this process that includes the end-to-end inflection points that can help teams build with an inclusive lens. I have this little poll in front of me. I'm just going to close it out, John, for a second because it is distracting. It is very useful, but it is distracting. So when I say end to end, what are these inflection points? It can begin with ideation, where you're bringing in diverse perspectives I guess it starts with what your team looks like. So team composition that then leads to better ideation around what you're building. User research is a very important part of this, bringing in input from others in the community who might be using your products is very important to get out of your office space and learn about how product might use this technology. Testing, once the product or service is created, and testing is a myriad of potential users. Testing should include a myriad of potential users from all walks of life. And the goal of our testing is to try to break the product, try to find those things that we didn't find in our ideation and our user research, and try to break the product. And then I'll jump over on the right side to the marketing and making sure that we are taking the product to everyone that we want to take it to and not leaving out people. So whose voice are you representing when you're doing your marketing? And I'll talk about the last piece that is very important, which is iteration. Oftentimes, even with the best intention, the product that we release doesn't serve the community as we want it to serve. I'll use a very recent example. Google has a tool, a conversational tool using generative AI called Bard. It was called Bard. Now it's called Gemini for conversation. And about a few weeks ago, if you typed in a prompt asking for some historical images, the images that were created did not reflect the historical accuracy of the people that were projected in the images. And that was because of certain filters that had been introduced in our processing, where we were changing changing to reflect diversity, but it was making the figures inaccurate. And that was obviously not well received. We cannot be changing history. We should not be misrepresenting people. And we pulled the product back. We paused it, causing a lot of consternation. There are plenty of articles out there that talk about how Google is failing, but we are iterating now and we are building a better product. A few years ago, same thing. I don't know if any of you remember Google Photos. If you uploaded a picture of black people and you asked, Google Photos was auto tagging it, this is embarrassing to admit, as gorillas. And again, you have to iterate. We worked with our Black Googler network, researched it and fixed it. Again, it will not be perfect. Iteration is a very important part of this process. So you can't go two steps in today's world without talking about AI. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about how to build for responsible AI through the inclusion process, where you're building fairness, interpretability. Why did the AI say what it did? Privacy and security. All of these are factors of inclusion. This is how we define responsible AI. It is a framework for design, development, and deployment of AI that focuses on ethics, fairness, and potential impact on society. Now, many people have their own responsible AI frameworks. Microsoft has one, IBM has one, the EU, European Union has come up with their own AI ethics guideline, etc. I'll take you through what Google's responsible AI framework is, and there's 7 sort of tenets that we have here around being socially beneficial, avoiding unfair bias, being built in for safety, and we put all of these tenets above and beyond business goals. This is why we pull back our products, even though they're profit generating products, we pull them back when we see a mistake. So it's, in our view, product inclusion is deeply tied to building responsibility using the right frameworks and principles. And we review these frameworks and principles periodically. We share the results of our work very publicly. And in the links that we will send out, you will actually see a bunch of notes around our, every year we do a review of how we did against our principles, so we share that publicly. There's also a couple of links on how to educate yourself, right? The goal of this is learning and finding, faster path to those opportunities. So there's a couple of links on, building responsibly and learning about responsible AI product development. With that, I wanted to pause and maybe have a little discussion on how you're thinking about incorporating inclusivity in the AI products and models that you're building internally, or maybe building for your customers, for those of you who are in customer facing roles. That's one of the questions I came with. How are you looking at introducing diversity in the data that you have? What techniques are you using? How do you see the risks of bias? What governance process are you guys using? I'd love to learn more about that. And I'm going to stop sharing and maybe open it up for a dialogue.
Thanks, Rajni. So, folks, we've got a wonderfully close-knit group here, so you're welcome just to speak up, or if you want to raise your hand using the tool, please do so. So some of you may not be product developers, but you're in some aspect of the business that this influences the outcomes for you. So feel free to ask any questions that you might have.
And while we wait for questions, I know the show is called From the Expert. I don't think one can be an expert in topics as large and deep as this. I see myself as a student, and I'd love to learn from you as I share some things with you as well. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as you think about inclusion and then responsibility in product development.
I'm okay with silence. Anybody got anything in their line of work they want to share? Catalina says, what are your thoughts on product development in neurodiversity?
So great question, Catalina. This is actually one of the dimensions that we look at in terms of the product development process. If you remember, I had this slide with many circles on it. There's the obvious ones: gender, race, geography, etc. But neurodiversity is actually one of the first areas we started looking into. And in this regard, one of the things that Google has done is used our population of neurodiverse Googlers. Let me take a step back. We talked about team composition in the product development process. If you remember that one slide that had a time scale on it, if you will, and laid out the different facets of product development. But the first thing about it is team composition. And in order to serve a neurodiverse population, you must understand them not just as users, but as teammates and people around you, and empathize with them. So that's one of the first things we do is, as we are looking at our team composition, we make sure that we are making the right accommodations so that neurodiverse populations are feel welcome at Google, right? That we are accommodating their needs as they join our organization. So that's number one. Number two, as we do the ideation and the user reviews or the user input process, we actually leverage the help of our own network of neurodiverse Googlers. We have an employee resource group that is focused on neurodiversity, and we bring them into the product development process, whether it's the Pixel phone, whether it's the YouTube videos, whether it's the YouTube influencers that we are targeting, whether it's a cloud product. We are looking at incorporating them, our neurodiverse Googlers, their input, as well as the user community, and building the product. So absolutely, we look at that as a facet of inclusion as well.
Catalina, do you have a follow-up?
My follow-up I mean, needless to say, companies like Google are at the tip of innovation.
Appreciate
but
that.
Yeah, right. And I think that's where we, being outside in different industries, right? We can tap onto that. So I would love to hear from you, like, thoughts on either best practices or how can we bring innovation to sectors that are more challenged, right? Or are in the earlier days of adoption, either for regulatory reasons or for cultural reasons or for changing reasons. If you had any thoughts on that, I would appreciate that.
I'm happy to share. But I was also, one of the links we will send out is this guidebook that we've developed. There is actually two links. One is the link to our responsible AI tenets that I walked you through. And then the second one is this guidebook that we've developed for folks. The question you just asked: how do I get started? How do I get started with human-centered design? How do I onboard my users? How do I explain my system to my users? How do I build responsibly? And we have a guidebook around those patterns. We have a guidebook that sort of has suggestions on the personas that you need to include in the process, but guidance around what the process even looks like. So there are many chapters that walk you through, like case studies, workshop materials, mental models, data collection and evaluation, how you think about explainability, trust, what you do with errors, iteration, all of that. And it's a pretty comprehensive guidebook, and it needs to be consumed. The part of what is in the guidebook is also shared in the couple of training links I will send out. It's no cost training to start learning. I would say the first step is to see what is out there, because there's a lot of good work that is being done by other organizations who are templatized, have created templates. And I'm speaking on behalf of Google, but there's certainly other organizations as well, the Responsible AI Institute, the Vector Institute, the Microsoft Research.
Right.
There's a lot of good templates. Education is step one. There's a lot of free resources out there, but in my humble opinion and experience, I think the first thing starts with, and everything in life, I feel, starts with people. And who you invite into the conversation and into the room is super important. So hiring for that, starting there is one of the most important steps in my view.
So we have Stephanie Boyd. She's a customer success manager with a very innovative Ren Energy, very innovative company. And Stephanie, I can just read this out, or would you like to go ahead and ask your question? This has to do with how do you deal with this now when you run into a problem that your management team aren't really open to this? Stephanie?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I took myself off of mute and it dropped the connection. So I guess, if you don't mind reading it, that would be great. I can follow up.
No,
I think I read your question. It's around building products, but there's lots of companies that are moving so fast it becomes a nice to have in the future. And unfortunately, sometimes focus on inclusion comes at difficult moments. Like in 2020, for example, in summer of 2020, you saw a lot of companies investing and inclusive practices and representation at that point of time. So based on what had happened, so I hear you. I think the one thing I would say, and we should, John, we should include this in our follow up. That sorry. There is a number of different studies done by Harvard, done by McKinsey, many others that it's only a Google search away. If I could use that one, we will send you some of these links, and these show you definitively in a data-driven fashion how inclusion and representation have impacted the bottom line, have had results on the business, how a more diverse boardroom, for example, drives to better return on investment, drives to better return on cash flow. So these are actual studies that have been done. So that's number one. I think it is important to drive awareness. Inclusion and representation is not a nice to have. It needs to be a business imperative. And part of the reason why it needs to be a business imperative is because your products will get left behind. Catalina raised a very important part about about neurodiverse populations, and you might not know this, but there are many people around you, like, we don't know, but they are neurodiverse, and sometimes it's not as obvious as might think, and they walk beside us every day, and something that's just one population group. And if you're building, especially if you're building digital products, it's very important to make sure that you're incorporating accessibility products features so that they feel comfortable using your products, and they're not distracted by the colors and the noise in your UI interface, right? So you will lose a population of users if you're looking at business outcomes. You lose your population of neurodiverse users if you don't incorporate that in. So that's why it becomes a business imperative, and clearly pointing back to data around why and how we can drive better business results using some of these studies. I think would be a good first steps.
Right. Good call. Any other takes on that, maybe from the business perspective on how to handle this?
Hey, John. Uh, David Mullins, I'm the general manager of the public TV and radio station in Tallahassee, Florida. We're also licensed to the Florida State University, so we receive the university and we receive funds from the state. Now, we live in a state where currently DEI is not necessarily anything that's recognized by the state government. So it makes it a challenge for us as an organization. But we utilize the same kinds of principles as far as and our product is number one, the people that we have here that are producing content, and then the content itself. So we do like to not in the AI world, but using DEI is part of what a part of our mission to ensure that we are employing and employing the right people and producing the right content for the population in a diverse community. So that's in the media world. I think each local organization across the country tries to do that. But then when you look at the media organization more broadly, if you think of the Hulus and the Netflixes of the world that certainly are using AI and their algorithms to make sure that I'm seeing on my feed what they think that I want to watch. But also they are very and I think growing more inclusive in the way that they are marketing their product to the LGBTQ community, to the Black community, to the Hispanic community. So they they recognize they have a diverse population of potential users. So I suspect that Google has helped create the ability for organizations like that to do that. And I guess one question is, how is Google partnering with other media organizations to help in the world of DEI and AI?
That's a really good question, and great to meet you, David. And you serve a very important community and also influence a lot of young minds with the programming that you have. So certainly a big responsibility. As far as what we are doing to support the media community, certainly we work with a number of media companies, whether it's Spotify, for example, for music, and a lot of the recommendation engines that surface what should you hear next, or you might like this based on what you previously listened to. They are based on Google's AI technology. So that's one way of looking at it. We are also helping them with, and from the marketing standpoint in terms of targeting user populations, and really with Google's AI being incorporated in some of our ads products, the creation and the burden and the heavy lifting of ads becomes a lot simplified. You can actually auto create a lot of the content, the images, the video, etc., using AI now. So that is another thing that we are doing is helping you target audiences, but also helping you generate the ads to bring in that audience to your programming. Additionally, the last thing I will touch on is it's very important. Again, I'll go back to safe and responsible and building product that avoids bias and addresses representation. And within our products, we've built in a lot of safety filters. Again, we have some super bad scars. You only have to Google some of the issues and faux pas that we've made in the space of AI in the past to know that we've learned from it and moved on. And we built like these safety filters. We call them safety filters within our products, so that you're not using not using violent words, for example, or not using inappropriate content that might be pornographic. So all of those filters are built in by default. You can go and tweak them, right? Make them better or make them more suitable to safer, right? Or more safe, less safe, more safe, depends on the tone of your organization, but you can tweak them for sure. So those are the ways in which we try to support the media community.
Oh, really, John, really, I'm sorry for monopolizing it here, but one quick follow-up. How about the concept of ethics in journalism and the use of AI? How is Google approaching that? Because I think from the media or from the journalistic side of speaking for myself, and I think my peers in the industry, AI is a great tool, but there is, as long as there is an editor that is ensuring the validity of the content that is generated by that
Yeah,
AI
yeah,
mechanism.
yeah. So again, in regards to the safety filters, one of the things that we've also produced is it's called a recitation checker. What it does is make sure that you are not copying word for word. When you're, one of the dangers of generative AI is learns from the whole vast wide internet, and then it might spew out somebody else's content as generated content. So we have something called a recitation checker, and if it notices, the recitation checker notices that, hey, there is many words together that represent something that was typed up in a New York Times article, it's going to flag it, right, for the user. Now, the human is always in the loop. There is a human somewhere at whoever is using this product to review the results of the recitation checker and to make sure that it's not reciting or cutting and pasting and using somebody else's copyrighted material. So that's one part of it. The second part of it, and this is available in Google search as well. I take that back. Not sure. It's available in the version of Google search that we use internally, but the providence of where did this image come from, right? Was it generated by AI or did someone take this image? So that is actually going to be built into Google search. And the last one is digital watermarking is a capability that we have as well. And I say last one, there might be others, but these are top of mind for me. It's super important to know whether a product is AI generated or if it is real, because especially with the community that you serve, you know, if you don't know whether the article is as real or fake, or the product is real or fake, the image is real or fake, you stand the risk of circulating fake news, right? And that is the most dangerous position to be in. And you can do wonderful things. You can have a picture of me saying something that I would never say in my life with AI, but if there's a digital watermark on it that says, hey, that's digitally generated, it's not me. It's me picked up.
So last few minutes, whether Paige or Scott or Thomas, if you guys have any questions, or anybody else, now's a good time. One of the things that comes to my mind, Roshni, that when we talked earlier, has to do with how diversity and inclusion in product development actually contributes to innovation and business growth. It sounds right, but how do you actually know that? How have you been able to prove that, or how do we know?
It's one of those things that's really, really difficult to prove without collecting and tracking the vast amount of data, right? So there are trends and insights that you can drive with, and it has to correlate with your people data, like who you're hiring, when did you hire them, the rate of productivity, the sales of the company, like how many bugs you're creating, how many feature requests you're creating. All of that has to be correlated to drive at some of the insights that we see in the articles from McKinsey and from other Accenture and from other sources. So it is possible to do. It is difficult to do. And again, it goes back to collecting the data set and looking at the insights that the data sets can give you around the team composition, the productivity of the people, what does the process look like, and then the outcomes, right, of the product and how it's doing in the market, the sentiment analysis from your marketing campaigns, the feedback that you're getting from your user community, all of that has to be pulled in together to make a determination on, hey, did this actually move our cash flow up as an organization, or did it not?
So we're closing down. I'm just curious, you're dealing with a lot of different types of clients trying to leverage this capability. Uh, what are the trends or the things that you're active with your clients on today that are, surface to the top for you? Where are you spending your time?
So if you'd asked me this question last year, I would say that everybody's racing to build an AI product or AI capability or add AI to their product, like, AI-fy their product, I guess. I think the couple of things this year, more and more that I'm seeing from business leaders, executives, is number one, focus on governance first and frameworks first, like looking at, okay, if I build this, what does that mean for my organization, and how do I build a thing that is right, and how am I going to manage it? So that governance process is important. The second thing that leaders are looking at is the business case. If I build this, what am I spending to get what value in return, right? How is this going to either save money or make money for me, and how much am I spending to get this value in return? So those are the two key things that have come up. There is that added focus around specifically AI and adding generative AI into the products, around the safety frameworks, because there's been enough GAFEs in the market, and then the value, the business value.
Excellent. Well, that will have to be the last word. Thank you very much, Roshni. So, folks, how was the conversation today? Please take a second, fill out the survey on your screen and let us know. And later today, like we said earlier, you'll receive the FTE post-show notes that will give you access to the contact list, everybody that you saw here today. And please take a moment to explore FTE membership. If you don't find what you're looking for, we'll customize something just for you. Plus, you can cancel at any time. Next up on From the Experts, April 30th, how should governments and corporations think about citizens' data in the AI era? So Giant Cola is partner at Convergence Catalyst, former Google Health AI leader. He breaks this down. Is going to share some models that he's actually worked with governments and other clients. May 14th, Stephen Eluck is Vice President of AI and Governance with IBM, is going to lead the discussion on AI governance, but specifically sharing methods on how to accelerate AI adoption into enterprise. This is what you'll gain in that session. So be sure to check out our website at fte.network and subscribe to our YouTube and Apple and Spotify channels on our website and never miss a show. Folks, that's all we have time for today. Thank you once again, Roshni, and all of you on From the Experts.